Welcome to the Spiritual Awakening Path. This is a space for slowing down, tuning in, and remembering who you truly are. Whether you're just beginning your journey or you've been walking this path for a while, you are exactly where you need to be. Let me ask you to imagine this. One morning you wake up, settle into your usual chair by the window. The trees are still green, the birds are still singing, the world outside looks the same, but something inside you feels different. The rush, the urgency, it's just not there anymore. There's no pressure to do more, prove more, be more. Instead, it's like there's this empty room inside your chest. Still, quiet, undefined. Have you ever felt something like that? I've met many people over the years, men and women who once lived fast-paced lives. They built careers, chased goals, wore many hats. But then at some point they tell me, I just don't feel motivated anymore. They don't care about chasing recognition. They're not trying to please everyone. They're not sad exactly. But they're not full of joy either. It's just a pause. A long, unfamiliar stillness. And here's what I want to say. From one soul to another, you're not losing motivation. You're being restructured from the inside out. Neuroscience tells us that when we go through a deep internal shift, whether triggered by crisis, loss, or spiritual awakening, our brain starts rewiring itself. Old patterns, old habits, old drives begin to fade. It's like cleaning out an old house. First, you have to take things apart, make space, so something new can be rebuilt. Simpler, lighter, more aligned. Maybe you used to live for duty, for ambition, for what others expected of you, but now, maybe you're starting to ask, what really matters to me now? And yes, your old sources of motivation may be slipping away. But that doesn't mean you're empty. It means a new version of you is beginning to emerge, a version that no longer needs to prove anything to anyone, a version that moves slower, breathes deeper, and lives more truthfully. I once had a patient, a man in his early 60s, retired CEO. After stepping down, he fell into a mild depression. He told me, I don't have goals anymore. I don't know why I'm still here. But after spending a few quiet months near nature, he started painting again. He smiled and said, I don't need to be important anymore. I just need to feel alive and be myself. You see, sometimes losing motivation isn't a breakdown. It's a doorway. It's life gently guiding you into a new season, one that could be your most meaningful yet, where you don't need to achieve anything to be enough. You don't need to impress anyone to belong. You just show up as you are, fully present. You're not losing anything. You're finally coming home to you. I want you to imagine this. You've been walking a familiar path, a path you've believed in your whole life. You've walked it for so long, with purpose, with conviction, but one day you arrive at a crossroads, and suddenly you don't know which direction to take anymore. No more drive, no clear goal. The things that once lit your soul on fire now feel like distant echoes. But that's not failure. You're not lost. You may have just entered something Carl Jung called enantiodromia, the inner reversal of your being. I call it the sacred emptiness. It's a season where you feel empty, not because you're broken, but because your soul is making space for something new, something deeper, something more aligned. You no longer chase the must-haves, the must-dos, the must-be successful at. You slow down, and that sudden stillness might scare you. You might ask, what's wrong with me? Why don't I feel motivated anymore? Why do I feel so quiet inside when the world keeps spinning so fast? But friend, this quiet, it's not a problem. It's a gift. Think of a forest after a wildfire. The silence isn't the end, it's the beginning. Before new life can grow, the ground must be cleared. Your soul is doing the same. During enantiodromia, the old version of you, the one fueled by ego, roles, titles, expectations, starts to fall away. Not because you failed, but because your spirit is preparing you for something truer. I once met a woman in her 50s. She had been a mother, a wife, a reliable worker. Her whole life was devoted to others, but one day, with the kids grown, her husband busy, and her job less demanding, she felt adrift. Every morning she woke up wondering, who am I now if I'm not taking care of anyone? She thought she was depressed, but she wasn't. She was simply in her sacred pause, and in that quiet space, she began to paint. She gardened. She sat in silence and started meditating, not for any reason, just to be. And one day she told me, for the first time in my life, I feel light. I'm not trying to make anyone else happy anymore. I'm learning to live for me. Do you see it now? Emptiness is not the end. It's the pause in the music, the inhale before a brand new symphony begins. So if you're in this space right now, trust it. It means you're awakening. It means you're no longer skimming the surface. You're diving into the depths of who you really are. And that is something truly sacred. Have you ever felt like the things that used to make you happy no longer mean anything at all? A trip you once looked forward to, a lively party filled with people, a compliment from someone you admired. Now it all just feels flat. And you find yourself wondering, why don't I feel excited about anything anymore? Why can't I feel joy like I used to? If you've ever felt that way, I want you to know there's nothing wrong with you. You're not broken. You're just beginning to shift from the inside out. When someone starts to awaken spiritually, the outer motivations that once drove them begin to lose their grip. You stop wanting to do things just to be admired, loved, or recognized. You start longing for something else, something deeper, something more real. And that doesn't come from outside of you. I once spoke to an older man who said to me, "I've worked my whole life. I had the house, the car, the status, but when I retired, I felt empty. I didn't know what I was living for anymore. No one needed me. I had no reason to get out of bed." I sat quietly for a moment, then asked him, if you didn't need to prove anything to anyone, what would make you want to live one more day? Tears filled his eyes, and slowly he began to write, not for a book deal, not to be famous, just to tell his story, for himself, for his grandchildren. A new kind of motivation was being born, but it didn't arrive like a thunderclap. It came gently, like sunlight slipping through the window at dawn, quiet, humble, and warm enough to stir the soul. You know, there are seasons in life where you don't need to do something great. You just need to sit still, to listen, to notice yourself. And then you'll start to see there's a kind of motivation that doesn't come from success or applause. It comes from alignment within. It doesn't come from someone else inspiring you. It comes from a soft, honest whisper from deep inside you. It might be the desire to tend a small garden, the longing to rewrite the story of your life, the peace you feel just sitting beside someone you love, saying nothing at all. And when that kind of motivation rises up, you'll know you're no longer living to become somebody. You're living to come home, to yourself. This kind of motivation doesn't push you to move faster. It invites you to live deeper. Dear friend, maybe you grew up believing that life is all about moving forward, that you need to have goals, that you must keep working, that your worth depends on how useful you are. But then, one day, you wake up and just don't want to do anything. You don't want to get out of bed. You don't want to talk. You don't want to think about plans or dreams anymore. And you start to worry, am I depressed? Why don't I feel like trying anymore? Let me ask you to pause for a moment and consider this. Maybe you're not falling apart. Maybe you simply need to rest. On the inside. Resting doesn't mean giving up. It means allowing your soul to heal, to restore, to breathe. Think of winter. No blossoms, no fruit, no busy buzzing of life, but no one calls winter useless. In that quiet cold, seeds are hidden deep in the soil, slowly preparing for spring. Our souls are no different. We cannot bloom all the time. There are seasons when we are simply meant to be, to breathe, to go inward, to return to ourselves. I've worked with many people in their 60s and 70s, people who spent decades working, leading, doing everything for everyone. But when they retired, when the kids had grown, when life got quieter, they suddenly felt empty. They asked me, what should I do now? And most of the time I gently said, doing nothing can be a precious thing. Don't rush to fill the silence. Don't try to escape the stillness, because sometimes it's in the emptiness where your real voice begins to speak. An elderly woman once told me, I used to think rest was laziness, but now I see it's how I come back to myself. I make tea, I listen to birds, I sit in the sunlight, I'm doing nothing, and yet I feel more at peace than I ever have. You see, slowing down doesn't mean you're falling behind. It means you're choosing depth over speed. So if today you feel like you can't keep going, allow yourself to pause. Not to stop forever, but to recover, to realign, to come back to life on your own terms. Because maybe after these quiet days, you'll begin to walk again, not from pressure, not from fear, but because you truly want to live in a more meaningful way. Trust this, even the pause, is a sacred part of the journey. There are seasons in life when you feel lost, like you're going through the motions but not really present. Each day passes, you do the same things you've always done, but deep down, you don't feel like you anymore. You used to be full of passion. You used to love life, and now you find yourself wondering, what happened to me? I've sat with many older adults who whisper the same question. When I was younger, I had so many dreams. I used to laugh, to feel alive. Now, it's like I've disappeared from myself. Let me offer you this gentle truth. You haven't lost yourself. You're just on the path of returning to yourself in a new way. You see, throughout our lives, we play many roles. We're daughters and sons, parents, partners, workers, caregivers. We're always doing so much that we sometimes forget who we are beyond the roles we play. And when a new phase arrives, when the kids are grown, when work is no longer center stage, when relationships shift or routines slow down, there's an empty space, and it feels disorienting. But that space isn't meaningless. It's sacred. It's a threshold, a doorway, back to your most authentic self. Do you remember what you used to love? Are there quiet dreams you left behind? Are there versions of you, free, creative, playful, that you tucked away to meet others' expectations? One woman I worked with, she was 65, told me, "I've started painting again. As a child, I loved it, but my parents told me, you can't make a living doing that. So I stopped. Now I paint, not to make money, but to reconnect with the little girl I used to be." Her story moved me deeply, because not everyone finds the courage to return. Not everyone can be soft enough to embrace who they've become. But if you're reading this, listening to these words, I believe you're already on your way back, and soon you'll realize you haven't disappeared. You're simply shedding the old layers, the names and expectations others gave you, so you can meet yourself again, more honestly, more deeply. You may not be the you once were, and that's okay, because who you're becoming now is wiser, gentler, and more beautifully you than ever before. You're coming home, and you've always been enough. I once sat beside a man in his 70s. He had just lost his wife to cancer. They had been together for nearly 50 years. On the day she passed, he looked at me and said, "I thought I'd never make it through. I lost my partner, my soulmate, and for a moment I felt like I had lost myself too." He paused, then continued, "But then I realized what I really lost wasn't her. It was the daily routines, the familiar presence by my side. But the love, the memories, the deeper things, they're still here, inside me." Have you ever experienced a loss that deep? Losing a loved one, losing a relationship, losing a job you once felt passionate about, or maybe losing the version of yourself you used to be proud of? At this stage in life, many of us have witnessed things fall apart. We felt like we've lost too much. But you know what? Sometimes it's the loss that becomes the turning point, the moment we begin to see what truly lasts. There's something I've learned in my decades of working with older adults. Every pain, if we're willing to stay with it, can eventually lead us to a deeper truth about who we live in a world that constantly pulls us outward. People ask what you're doing, what you've achieved, what you own. But loss does the opposite. It strips away the external and forces us to turn inward. And when we do, we might find something no one can take from us, a deeper connection to ourselves, to our soul, to the sacred presence that lives quietly within us, moment by moment. An elderly woman once told me, "When I lost my only son, I thought I had nothing left to live for, but that pain helped me realize I still have this heart, and I'll use it to love other children who have no one." You see, we don't get to choose what we lose, but we do get to choose how we go on living. Every loss can be a doorway, not to forget, but to remember what truly remains. And if you're going through something painful right now, I can't take that pain away for you. But I can sit here with you, and I can remind you, the light inside you has never gone out. As long as you don't turn away from it, it's still there, waiting for you to come home. Have you ever lain awake in the middle of the night, and in that stillness, old memories come flooding back? Maybe it was something you said, and now regret. A person you hurt, a decision you made that still haunts you because you wish you had chosen differently. I once sat with an 82-year-old man. He held my hand tightly and said, "What I regret most isn't the mistakes I made. It's the years I spent not being able to forgive myself." Can you relate to that feeling? carrying an invisible weight year after year. And the older we get, the more we feel it, in our breath, in our sleep, in the way we look at life. But let me ask you something. If someone came to you confessing a similar mistake, what would you do? Would you hug them? Would you say, "It's okay, it's in the past, forgive yourself"? So why not say that to yourself? I once read a study that found people who practice self-forgiveness not only live longer, but are healthier physically and emotionally. Because forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. It means stopping the harm we keep doing to ourselves over things that cannot be undone. Aging is a gift, not because it's perfect, but because it gives us one final chance to lay down the burdens we've carried too long. Maybe you don't have as much time as you used to, but you still have enough time to say to yourself, "I did the best I could. I made mistakes, but I still deserve love. I've lived enough to know that true peace starts when I accept who I am." I have a friend who's a therapist. He once told me, "Most older clients don't come to me to be healed. They come to ask for permission to forgive themselves." Maybe you need that too, but you don't need anyone's permission. Just place your hand over your heart and say this one sentence: "I forgive myself." Because only when you forgive can you finally be free. And only then will your heart be light enough to feel life again with all the peace that was always there, waiting for you. You've come a long way on this journey. Decades, maybe, working hard, caring for others, building a family, a life, doing what you believed was right. And now, as things begin to quiet down, the kids are grown, the pace of life has slowed, you sit down and suddenly realize, I've never truly sat with myself. I want you to imagine this. Inside each of us is an inner home, a place where all our emotions, memories, longings, and even old wounds live. That home may have been forgotten for a long time, covered in the dust of survival, burdened by responsibility, and neglected every time we turned away from our true feelings. Over time, that place can start to feel unfamiliar. But then one day, like now, you feel something gently calling you back. Not to do something grand, not to prove anything, just to come home to yourself. I once spoke with an 86-year-old woman. She told me something I'll never forget. "I don't need anyone to visit me anymore because now I can sit with myself and feel whole." That wasn't a sad statement. It was peace. A deep kind of peace that only comes after a lifetime of understanding, experience, and letting go. When you return to your inner home, you realize you no longer have to try to be someone. You don't have to fear being left behind. You don't have to ask where life is taking you next, because you've found where you belong. And the miracle is, that place has always been within you. You were just too busy to notice. You can start each morning with just a few quiet moments. Place your hand over your heart, close your eyes, and ask yourself, what do I truly need today to feel alive? Not just to exist, not just to please others, but to live, fully awake, gently, and with a sense of wholeness. I believe this. No matter where you are in life, no matter how many years have passed, the moment you come home to yourself is the moment you begin to live again. You don't need to go anywhere. That home has always been here. In every breath you take, in every moment you are fully present. If you've stayed with me until this moment, I'd like to invite you to take just one quiet pause, simply to listen to yourself. No need for answers, no need for a plan for tomorrow. Just stay with this breath, this moment. Can you feel it? We've been taught how to chase, how to strive, how to prove ourselves. But rarely has anyone taught us how to simply sit still and feel enough. How to be alone without feeling lonely. How to walk quietly and know that each step is already a miracle. I've spoken to many people in their 60s, 70s, and beyond, and they often say, "I don't need much anymore, just a peaceful soul and a place I can truly call me." And I believe that might be the most precious gift of a lifetime. Have you ever looked up the sky during sunset? It lasts just a few minutes, but it has the power to calm your heart for an entire day. That kind of beauty isn't owned. It can't be controlled. It simply arrives when we're ready to stop and receive it. Just like the light inside of you. It's never been gone. It's simply been waiting for you to stop running, stop comparing, stop trying to be someone else, just so you can come home and whisper, "I'm here. I've always been here." And if this video has reached you, if something inside you stirred even a little, then let me say just one simple thing. Thank you. Thank you for choosing to stay in a world that often makes it so easy to give up. Thank you for still believing that softness, stillness, and sincerity still have a place to survive. We will meet again, not in some faraway place, but in every moment you dare to live honestly, love yourself gently, and believe that your light has always been there, just waiting for your return. I'll see you again in awakening, in gentleness, in you.